Good morning, children. In previous video, I explained about what is a globe, points of the reference on a globe, relative and absolute locations, and the lines of latitudes and its characteristics, and the important parallels. So, what are the important parallel latitudes? Equator, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, Arctic Circle, and Antarctic Circle. And today I am going to explain about the temperature zones of the earth. And due to the tilted nature of the earth axis is tilted, means little bent. How much degree? 23.5 degree the earth axis is tilted. Because of this, the distribution of heat and the solar energy which we get from the sun is unequal. And based on the amount of solar energy which we received, each hemisphere is divided into 3 temperature or heat zone. Based on this amount of solar energy which we received, each hemisphere is divided into 3 temperature zone or heat zone. How many hemisphere? 2 hemisphere, northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. The earth is divided into 2 equal halves by the equator. Above the equator, that part is known as northern hemisphere, and below the equator, that part is known as southern hemisphere. So each hemisphere divided into 3 temperature zones. They are torrid zone, temperate zone, and the frigid zone. Okay, so they are torrid zone, temperate zone, and the frigid zone. So first one is the torrid zone. The torrid zone lies between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay, Tropic of Cancer is in the northern hemisphere and Tropic of Capricorn is in the southern hemisphere. So torrid zone lies between the Tropic of Cancer. Degree of Tropic of Cancer is 23.5 degree north. North means northern hemisphere. And Tropic of Capricorn is in the southern hemisphere, and its degree is same, 23.5 degree south. Okay, so in this latitude between these two tropics, the sun shines perpendicular over the overhead, or at least once in a year, and these latitudes get the direct rays from the sun, and this zone is the hottest zone. This torrid zone is the hottest, means sabse garam, hottest zone, and this zone is also known as the torrid zone or the tropical zone. See this picture. This torrid zone, yellow part, lies between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. Okay, and see the equator. Equator divides the earth into 2 equal halves. The degree of equator is 0 degree, and the Tropic of Cancer is 23.5 degree north. Arctic Circle 66.5 degree north. Tropic of Capricorn 23.5 degree south, and Antarctic Circle 66.5 degree south. Okay, so Tropic of Cancer, between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, torrid zone lies. It is very hottest zone because the sun rays falls vertically on this zone. Okay, next, our next is temperate zone. The latitudes lying between the Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle in the northern hemisphere, and between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Antarctic Circle in the southern hemisphere. Both sides, in the northern hemisphere as well as in the southern hemisphere. So in the northern hemisphere, the temperate zone lies between the Arctic Circle and the Tropic of Cancer, and in the southern hemisphere it lies between the Tropic of Capricorn and Antarctic Circle. Okay, and these regions are therefore moderate heated. Moderate heated means neither too hot nor very cold, and they are called as the temperate zone. Okay, temperate zone means moderated. Moderate climate means neither too hot nor very cold. So temperate zone lies between uh, the Arctic Circle and the Tropic of Cancer in the northern hemisphere, and the Tropic of Capricorn and Antarctic Circle in the southern hemisphere. And in here the sun is little, and the sun rays falls little inclined. Inclined means little slanting. Little slanting we get the sun rays, and the climate of this zone is moderate, and this zone is also called temperate zone. And the next one is frigid zone, and the frigid zone lies between the Arctic Circle and the North Pole in the northern hemisphere, and Antarctic Circle and the South Pole in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so the frigid zone lies between the Arctic Circle and the North Pole in the northern hemisphere, and between the Antarctic Circle and the South Pole in the southern hemisphere. And these zones get least solar energy. Means here the sun rays falls the large amount of slanting. Okay, and these sun rays, these region get a least solar energy में सबसे कम solar energy वहाँ पर मिलती है, and these regions are very cold. These regions are very cold, and therefore this known as the frigid zone or the polar region. Now the next is lines of longitude. Okay, so lines of longitude also an imaginary lines that runs vertically across the surface of the earth, and lines of latitude run horizontally, and longitude lines that run vertically across the surface of the earth from north pole to south pole. These longitudes run from north pole to south pole, and they are called the lines of longitude or the meridian. So what is longitude? Longitudes are the imaginary lines that run vertically across the surface of the earth from north pole to south pole, and the latitudes, they are also imaginary line. They run horizontally from east to west. A longitude can be defined as a angular distance in degrees, minutes and seconds. They also defined as degrees, minutes and second of a point east or west of the prime meridian. And prime meridian is a 0 degree longitude, and it passes through the Greenwich in England. It passes through the Greenwich in England, where the British Royal Observatory is located, and it's divide the earth into eastern and western hemisphere. Okay, so the prime meridian divides the earth into two hemisphere, eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere, and the lines of longitude gives the vertical coordination of a place from east to west. And the next is characteristics of meridian. The lines of longitudes run from the north pole to south pole. Okay, these meridians run from north pole to south pole in the north-south direction, and they give east-west coordinates of the place, because here the earth is divided into two hemispheres, eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere. The distance between the meridian decreases polewards from the equator, and here the distance of these meridians decreases polewards from the equator. ओके, जैसे जैसे हम पोल साइड के साथ पोलर साइड जाते हैं वहाँ पर उनकी जो डिस्टेंस है वो कम होती जाती है. एंड इट डिक्रीजेस फ्रॉम अ मैक्सिमम of about 111 kilometer as the equator to 0. And the meridians are numbered from prime meridian. These meridians are also numbered from east of the prime meridian, are called longitude 0 to 179 degree east from the east prime meridian. From the east of prime meridian are called longitude 0 to 179 degree east, and those on the west, they are also known as 0 to 179 degree west. And the 180 degree is longitude is neither west or east because it is a 0 degree. So there are 360 degrees of the longitude. So total number of longitudes are 360. In the meridian from the great circle around the earth, a great circle is a line that divides the earth. And the next is great. The great. What is great? The lines of latitudes and the longitudes intersect at a right angle. When the lines of latitudes and longitudes intersect means एक दूसरे को काटना. When they crisscross to each other, intersect to each other at a right angle. And this grid formed by this crisscrossing lines is called geographic grid or earth grid. And the absolute location, previous video I explained about the relative location and the absolute location. To find out the absolute location of a place, we need the degrees of latitude and the longitude. Then it is easy to locate the place. So the earth. Now what is the use of the grid? So the earth grid help us to locate a place easily. If we have the degrees of latitude and longitude, so easily we can locate on a map or on a globe. Okay, and clearly it is very easy. Clearly understand how to locate a place on a grid map. You can see in this picture. You see this picture, crisscross, latitude and longitude and the grid. Now longitude and time. Before the railways was started in 1800 centuries, each place had its own time. Okay, when the railways were started, so each place had its own time. And the length of shadow cast by an object indicated the time. In previous days, the people see the object, shadow of object. छाया देख के, परछाई देख कर टाइम बताते थे. So the length of shadow cast by object indicated the time. The shortest shadow is at noon and the longest at sunrise and the sunset. But whenever the sun was directly overhead, it is considered to be a noon. And this was called the solar time or the local time. What is solar time or local time? Whenever the sun was directly overhead, it is considered to be a noon, and this time is called the solar time or the local time. And it is defined by the position of the sun, and the solar days was the time it took for the sun to return to the same point in the sky. As the earth rotates, the sun shines directly over each meridian once every day. When the meridian of a Greenwich has a sun directly overhead. And here is given how to calculate. Time taken by the earth to rotate once around its own axis is equal to 1 day, because the earth takes 1 day to complete one rotation. So 1 day is equal to 24 hours, and 24 hours is equal to 24 hours, and 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. So total 1440 minutes. And one rotation of the earth 360 longitude. So 1440 divided by 360 is equal to 4 minutes. Therefore, time taken to turn 15 degree of longitudinal. So 15 into 4 is equal to 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour. Now the zone of the world, time zones of the world. The worldwide time zone. In 1878, Sir Sandford Fleming developed the system of worldwide time zones that we still use today. In 1827 to 1915. In 1878, Sir Sandford Fleming developed a system of worldwide time zone, and still we are following. And he proposed what he developed. He proposed that the world would be divided into 24 time zones, and each is separated by 15 degree of longitude. So he chose this figure because the earth complete a rotation every 24 hours. So there are how many longitudes? 360. So the earth rotates through 360 divided by 24 of a circle or a 15 degree every hour. Now the standard time. What is this standard time? The local time of a place depend on the meridian of the that passes through it. There are several longitudes, and there would be a great confusion because every city, every place is a very difficult to follow the same time. So there is a great confusion if each place in a country followed its local time. So it would not be possible to prepare a common railway time or the airlines timetable. Okay, so if each place were to follow a different local time, it is very it can have a great confusion. So to avoid this confusion, the most countries follow a standard time. And what is standard time? Standard time for each country is usually taken as the time of the central meridian of that country. Okay, so each country, if most of the countries, they followed standard time, and standard time for each country is usually taken as the time of the central meridian of that country. In India, the local time of central meridian of India is 82 degree 30 minute east. Okay, what is the central meridian of India? What is the local time of the central meridian of India? It is 82 degree 30 minute east is taken as a standard time for entire country, and it is called Indian Standard Time. And this central meridian passes through Mirzapur near Allahabad. Okay, and this standard time passes through the Mirzapur near Allahabad. Now the next is the standard meridian of country can be used to calculate how far it is ahead of behind Greenwich Mean Time. Or what is Greenwich Mean Time? The Greenwich Mean Time is the local time at Greenwich. It can be used for the purpose of calculating time globally. Okay, the next. And since the India is to the east of Greenwich, so the Indian Standard Time is 5.5 hours ahead of GMT, and the countries like Canada, USA and Russia with a vast longitudinal extent have more than one standard time. Russia has 11 time zones, more than any other country. Now international dateline. The international dateline is an internationally agreed time change line. It is drawn along the 180 degree meridian. If one crosses this line while moving from east to west, we lose a day. If one crosses this line while moving from east to west, we gain a day. For example, that is a 24th June is to the west of ILD, IDL, and 25th June is to the east of IDL. Now if we cross the IDL from west to east, we will find that you have moved from 24th to 25th zone, we lose a day. And if we cross IDL from east to west, then we will find we will moved from 25th to 24th zone, means again we gain a day. And the concept of measuring time in terms of second, minutes, hours, days, weeks, fortnights and years. Fortnights means 15 days and years we will become more clear when we study the motions of the earth. Okay, so motions of the earth means movement of the earth. So we will study this one in the next chapter. Now see this glossary. So you learn glossary also. Okay, here is given glossary. In the next video I'll give the question answers. And if you have any doubt, you can ask from me by giving your comments. Thank you.